Peppers. With over 30 million tons produced each year, it's clear. Sometimes humans like it when their food is painful. Yes, peppers today are used in so many forms in so many foods that it would actually be a challenge to avoid them completely. But how did we get to this point? Where did peppers come from, and how did they take over the world? Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Fire of Learning's History of Food and Agriculture series. Thank you for joining us as we tell the story of peppers. Where did peppers come from in the first place? Peppers likely originated in northwestern South America. By the time of human arrival, they had spread out across much of South and Central America and diversified into numerous different species. Evidence suggests that humans were eating wild peppers by at least 7500 BC. Cultivation, or farming, appears to have begun around 5000 BC, making them one of the first plants domesticated in the Americas. Cultivation appears to have first occurred in Mexico, but it seems that there were multiple independent domestication events with some in South America as well. The first peppers were small, red, round, berry-like fruits. Human farmers would develop them into the many varieties we see today over the course of millennia. The spiciness with which we are so familiar today has existed in the fruit since the beginning, however. In fact, the non-spicy bell peppers did not arise until much more recently in history. The terminology associated with peppers can be a little bit complicated. Actually, somebody involved in the naming process should be fired. The taxonomic name for all varieties of this fruit, the umbrella term in English, is capsicum. In America, capsicums are called peppers and are often referred to by the type of pepper that they are. The main two categories are chili peppers, used to refer to the spicy, pungent, or at least piquant fruits, and, as we mentioned, bell peppers, used for the bell-shaped, non-spicy varieties. Simple enough, but the terms start to change outside of America, even in other English-speaking countries, in ways that lead to confusion. Civilizations such as the Maya, Aztecs, and Incas highly valued chili peppers, and seemed to have seasoned essentially as much food as they could with them. They were not only used as food though, but also as a medicine for various ailments such as headaches, indigestion, and cleaning wounds. In the Inca Empire of modern-day Peru and Chile, no relation, they were used as a currency in some cases. Chili peppers were used by some tribes in Brazil to ward away evil spirits, perhaps a bit like garlic and vampires. The first Europeans to discover chili peppers were the crew under Christopher Columbus in 1493, who were introduced to them on the island of Hispaniola. Because the burn of the fruit reminded the Spaniards of black pepper, they called them peppers. Columbus wrote in his journal that year, quote, "There is also a lot of ají, which is their pepper, of a kind as precious as pepper, and none of the natives eat anything without it, because they find it very sound." End quote. Capsicums were soon after taken back and introduced to Spain. The Portuguese encountered them in Brazil not long after, and by the end of the 16th century, they had spread rapidly around the world, to much of Europe, West Africa, the Ottoman Empire, India, China, Japan, and Southeast Asia. Though Europeans had partly embarked on these expeditions around the world in hopes of acquiring spices, such as black pepper, from Asia in the first place, it seems that chili peppers struggled to take off in Europe itself for quite some time. They were often grown only as ornamental plants. The fruit was neglected, as Western Europeans continued to prefer black pepper instead, especially those who could afford it. However, in other parts of the world, namely those that, perhaps not by coincidence, had more experience with spices, like much of Asia and Africa, it was readily accepted. Indeed, some early botanists assumed that capsicums had originated in India or China because of how popular they would become there. By the 17th century, the Nahuatl or Aztec word for the fruit, chili, was used to distinguish these peppers from black pepper. The black pepper you find next to the salt is not related to capsicum peppers at all. It comes from a completely different family of plants native to southwestern India. However, the compound in black pepper that makes it spicy, piperine, is similar to the compound that makes capsicum spicy, capsaicin. Capsaicin exists in these fruits naturally and for good reason. Likely, it developed to trigger the pain receptors of mammals, designed to signal dangerous exposure to heat to deter them from eating the fruit, and therefore to reserve the seeds inside for birds who do not feel the heat or pungency of capsaicin and who are much more efficient at dispersing seeds across a wide area. But then came humans, who enjoyed the pain, thereby foiling capsicum's plans. But then they massively expanded their range as a result far more than birds, so it all worked out. For those of you wondering though, yes, this does mean that if you were ever mugged by a parakeet, pepper spray may not be an effective defense. There are 40 species in the genus Capsicum, of which 5 are domesticated. Most peppers of which people are aware, such as jalapeno, bell, banana, cayenne, and cherry, belong to the species Capsicum annuum, Tabasco peppers to Capsicum frutescens, and many of the hottest of all peppers, including Pepper X, which replaced the Carolina Reaper as the hottest pepper in the world in 2023 to Capsicum chinense. Some, like ghost peppers, are hybrids of different species. While chili peppers are native to the Americas, it seems that they did not become popular in what is today much of the United States and Canada until after European colonization, and this, it seems, was partly a product of African influence. When the Portuguese spread chili peppers to West Africa, they became very popular among the native peoples there. When slave traders took these people to North America, chili peppers were sometimes brought along with them. African slaves continued to grow them in the New World and made them familiar to the European inhabitants. Having looked through the letters of some of America's founding fathers, it seems capsicum peppers were well known and in use in America by the time of the Revolution, especially cayenne pepper. In Georgian England, it had become a prank to mix chili powder in with snuff in order to induce fits of sneezing onto an unsuspecting victim. According to Jean Andrews in her book Peppers, the Domesticated Capsicums, it was Napoleon's continental system that blocked British trade, and therefore British black pepper from the European continent, that encouraged Europeans to experiment with chili peppers more. By the end of the century, Hungarians were drying red peppers and grinding them into a powder to use as a spice, giving us paprika, and Italians were seasoning salami with peppers, eventually giving us pepperoni. Speaking of Hungarians, they also gave the world bell peppers, which were developed near the city of Szeged in the 1920s. Non-spicy paprika soon followed. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, we invite you to come check out the rest of Fire of Learning and to subscribe to see more videos like this in the future. To support the channel further, there is a link to our Patreon in the description. A special thanks once again to our current supporters listed here. Thank you for watching.